Hi everyone. Yeah, I'm so sorry for canceling the last class on Tuesday because of my health condition. So my throat condition is bad, almost relatively. So let me record my video for the asynchronous format of the lecture. So because we had the snowy day last week and Tuesday, I canceled for the class because of the condition. So the lecture slide is a little bit longer than other classes, but this is combination, the combined version of the 2 days of the classes. So I may not cover every single slide, but let me pick up some of the important parts so that you can review on those parts for your own study and to extend your knowledge for other content. So I will be covering, or we will be learning throughout the semester. All right. So the basics is the human inquiry and the social science. All right. So we will see that. So knowledge is a kind of the agreement of the reality. For example, you don't know that 1 plus 1 is 2 because you already know that by using the criteria of the calculation, the plus is adding and 1 is saying that just 1 having the 1, and 1 plus 1 is 2 because we agreed that we learned that is true, and you agreed that that's the reality. So in this kind of the very basic calculations and the basic mathematics, you can use your conventional knowledge because you already learned that, and you only know that these are true because you agreed about that. But however, some kinds of the social science knowledge, for example, you would say that so maybe I'm the Asian and I came from South Korea, so I can make a joke to the Koreans as well. So you would say, I would say that Koreans are not good at singing, for example. That would be possible. In general, the Koreans may not sing a lot. Probably they would have the lower levels of the average levels in the singing abilities. But there are many of the counter examples. So in this type of the very biased agreement or biased statement, you may not agree about that. So if you do not agree about that, that's not reality, because in your perception and in your understanding, that's not true. So this is about what kind of the knowledge and what kind of the assertions and the statements are true for you, or what linked to the reality. So for example, family is a very, very common concept you already know about. But what is the definition or the family of the family, or what's the family in reality? For example, so what types of the families? Maybe they're single parenthood, or maybe a single household family, the extended family, like that. So family is very, very common concept, very basic concept, but you'd have very different types of the definitions or arrangements in your understanding. So the human inquiry is because we are talking about the science, but we are talking about the social science in your sociology, criminology, and the social work and whatever. So we are most likely to talking about the human. So because the human or the individuals are the members of society, and the sum or the collection of the humans and the combination of the all together. So the societies consist of the human, and all the humans are creating and as a group of the science of the social science. So operationalization. So in your textbook, maybe you can see further explanations, but the family would be measured as a data, as based on your marital status, or based on your residential location and the residential settings. You can measure your marital status as a kind of the operationalization of your family status or others. So based on the so overgeneralization, sorry about that. So based on the operationalization, we can find some of the findings, and as we are usually using very small size of the sample. So in the classroom, we just have maybe 10 students, and in the SPSS and the General Social Survey data, we just have 2,000 people representing the whole, not representing the whole, but the population, the people in the United States, about the 300 million people. 300 million people in the United States. So it's almost impossible to generalize our findings. But by using the statistics and the research method, we are trying to generalize our findings there. All right. So the pre-modern view of things are as they seem. So based on their understanding and based on their perception, they made the picture, and they made some of the orientation, and they made a philosophical on the pictures and the conceptualization of the society. But in modern view, the acknowledgement of the human subjectivity and the postmodern view, there is no objective reality. So I may have my own perception or my opinion, but that may not be very objective, because you may have very different notion, and based on your knowledge, and based on your religion, and based on your political orientation, you may have different idea on that. So that's why. All right, so this is the picture and religious, sorry about the very bad quality of resolution, but religious affiliation is associated with their education, and maybe their education level impact on their choices of their religion. So highly educated people may not have their devotion in their religion or not. So we are not sure about the very clear objective reality, but these are related a lot. So based on the data collection, we are selecting the sample, and we may sum the generalization, and we collect the data, and we may have some data analysis. So we are learning. So on the Tuesday classes, we are learning this part in the data collection and others. And the Thursday class, we are learning the introductory levels with the data analysis and application. So this is the very basic the infrastructure of the classes. The theory is just not about their philosophy or the belief in their own mind and others. So the theory is systematically explain the observations related to the particular aspect of the life. So in your social science the classes, in sociology or in your criminology classes, you learned a lot of the theories, like the very famous the theory is the differential association in criminology, and they made the set of the statements that people are doing. So the neighborhood are gathering based on their level of education, and if they have many of the deviant behavior neighbors, the children who are living in the neighborhood, they are more likely to commit the crime or others. But we are who are sure. So can we be sure about that, or what are some clues? So based on the systematic approaches and the systematic collection of the data, we can find the patterns. Then these are becoming of the theory. So the aggregation, not individuals. So we may talk about the individuals, but we are talking about the patterns of the society, of the groups of people. So these are some of that. So the variables we are using in SPSS data, the logical groupings of the attributes. So for example, the marital. So marital was a variable about the logical groupings of their marital status. Married, never married, widowed, separated, divorced, like that. And logical groups of the attributes. So attributes is the characteristics of the qualities that describe the object, right? Their marital status and their stages of the marital status and others, these are some objects we are seeing. So some of the attributes would be the variables, and some of the variables, the collection of the variables, would be the data we are using in this class. All right, so we can pass over. So these are the common social concepts, and these are concepts. So social phenomena is operationalized. The operationalized as the variable, as the attributes, some of the attributes. Those uneducated are more prejudiced than the educated. So the dividing the sample groups and the attributes: educated, more educated, and uneducated, and the prejudiced and the unprejudiced. So we will see. This is a kind of the cross tabulation, and we will learn how to do that in the lab classes. So independent variable, the variable with the values that are not problematic. So the independent variable is the cause of the relationship. For example, before this, the more educated. So based on education, the people may have the higher prejudice level or the lower prejudice level. So in this relationship, there are two segments as education and their level of prejudice. So in this relationship, they argued that based on the education level, more educated would have the higher prejudice or the lower prejudice. So in this statement, independent variable is education, because education is the cause of the relationship. So the problematic in the analysis but are taken as given. Dependent variable is the outcome of the relationship. Because of education, they had a different level of the prejudice. So this is outcome. So in that relationship, dependent variable is the level of the prejudice. All right. So we will cover that more and more again. So purpose of the social research is exploratory. So if we don't know much about the details, but we are trying to investigate more to see the picture or the general outline of the social phenomena, that is the exploratory, mapping out the topic that may warrant further study later. So we will do later more, but we are just exploring about that. The descriptive, describing the state of the social affairs. So we don't know about the theory, we don't know much about the outcome as the causal relationship, but we are just simply, or we make some very dry explanations of the patterns. There's a descriptive statistics, providing the regions and the phenomena in terms of the causal relationship, which is the cause of the relationship, which is the outcome of the relationship, by using the theory. There's explanatory. For example, because of their education level, their children would have a very different outcome based on the developmental theory and because of the socialization theory like that. So if we make the very causal and very systematical and very analytic explanations, that is explanatory analysis, and we are trying in this class of the semester. All right, so there are many others like induction, the logical method in which general principles are developed from the specific observations. So from observation, they will accumulate those examples to make the theory. However, in contrast, deduction is the logical model with the specific expectations like a theory, or hypotheses are developed based on general principles. So on the qualitative study or interview or observation, these are induction or inductive theory or study, but the quantitative methodology using the statistics and hypothesis testing, that's a deduction of the study. All right. So the qualitative data, there's a non-numerical data like the observation, as I said, the ethnographic data or the participation interview. These are about the qualitative data and the quantitative data. This is what we do in the lab class. So numerical data. So we will see more and more details. All right. So these are the possible questions, but we don't have, in my understanding, let me see. These are the possible questions of the midterm exam if we take the traditional formats of the exam. But in my understanding, right. So so we don't have the weekly quizzes, so that's why. These are showing the possible answers for the if we had the multiple choice quiz questions. All right, so maybe you can review over because we don't have this format. All right, so the paradigm, the Thomas Kuhn, very famous social science scholar, he said this is the kind of the patterns, the model of the frames of the references to observe and understand very specific patterns. So previously, differential association theory, the Karl Marx conflict theory, or in sociology, the Tarquin-Parsons, the functionalism, and there are many theories that you learned so far in other classes. So these are about the patterns, the logical explanations of the patterns. Theories prevent our being or taken by flux in the patterns, make sense of the observed patterns, and to shape the direct research efforts. So these are the logical and the theoretical explanations that you can cover more details of the paradigms. So these are very big theories, so maybe I can go over. And macro theory, which is covering the the huge part of the society. Usually these are out of our control and out of our influencing many times. So the class struggles, the high class and the middle class and the lower class, they would struggle a lot. International relationship, these are very huge. The micro theory is maybe inner body or individual level, our own individual level. So your behavior, my behavior, individual level behaviors are very tiny in the micro level. So I'm not saying these are not very important, but these are collected as the macro theory. But in between the individuals and the macro level, these are the connections in the middle level theory. So this is the meso theory. References an intermediate level between macro and micro organizations, communities, and the social categories. That might be the meso level. So the conflict paradigm, the Karl Marx saying that the struggle among the classes and the structural inequality matters a lot to see the details in the outcomes. Similar interactionism based on our learning process in the socialization. In individual level, we are learning and we are forming on those patterns of the society. Interested in how individuals interacted with one another, micro approach, the George Herbert myth, taking the roles with the other, the Cooley, the Dalton Cooley, the looking glass self. So these are very big theories I will not cover in this class, but these are the individual level and micro level theories. Ethnomethodology, also the qualitative data. So they are participating in the situations and they are collecting the data as the qualitative data. So that's about it. The structural functionalism, which is also very classical theory, saying that the society is more important and the stability and equilibrium of the society would be more important. So maybe I don't need to add more. The feminist paradigm as well. So these are very the huge things. So maybe I don't need to cover many details because these are well written in the text and operationalization, the defining or specifying the exact operation involving the measurement as a variable. So the family was the variable or the marital status was the variable, operationalizing the social phenomena. And so these are all about that. So probably, so you can go further. So what causes why? So X causes Y. X is the cause, and X is the reason, and Y is the outcome. So, for example, if they are more educated, they are more likely to earn more money. So in that one, the high education causes high income. So X would be independent variable, Y would be dependent variable. All right, this is the traditional model of the science. Alright, the deductive is the traditional model of the science. So based on the using the theory, so like inductive model, deductive model, so hypothesis. We are saying that because the more, if they are studying more, they would have the better grade. So that's our perception, that's our understanding, and that's our expectation. So based on the hypothesis, the more the amount of the study would be associated with the grade. And observation is the collecting the data. So the collecting the many of the data, and we will see the patterns of the data, and accept or the reject the hypothesis. I said the more they study, the more they study, they would have the better grade. So in this graph, the more hours of studying, like 10 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours, 40 hours, they will have the better grade from 0 to 100. So in the conclusion, we would accept our hypothesis that the amount of the study is associated with the better grade or positively associated with the grade, because the more spent hours in their education was associated with the higher level of the grade. They were moved in the same direction, right? Longer hours of the studying, right? The more studying, and that was associated with the better grade. And in opposite way, the inductive method. So they will collect the data. So observation, studying, like finding a pattern. So they observed many of the students, 100 students, 1,000 students, the 11th about 10,000 and the 100,000 students. They made a find a pattern, and they made this, the conclusion that as we saw in the observation in the school, they found that there was the general and positive relationship between the hours spent and the hours spent in their study and their grade. So that would be the inductive method. So the deductive method is usually used for the quantitative study, but the inductive method is used as the qualitative study. All right, so this is the circle. Basically, by starting the theory, we make the hypothesis, and after setting up the hypothesis, we collect the data in the quantitative study. What means we make the data. So having the survey of the individuals and the 2,000 in the survey participants, and we made the GSS data, for example. And based on the analysis, we made the generalization that based on the education, they would have the better income based on our 2,000 number of the cases. But for again, so that was on the deductive study. But based on inductive study, we may have the generalization first, and then we make the we collect the data as the observations, and then we make the hypothesis and we make the theory. So that's the inductive method. Alright, so the deductive theory construction: specify the topic, specify range of the phenomena, identify and specify your significant constants and the variables and others. So that's the quantity data. But inductive study would be the interview or the observation, like the observing. So observation is the first, observing aspects of the social life and seeking to discover patterns. So that's grounded theory and the field research. Alright, the deductive model research is used for test theory. Inductive model theories that are developed from the analysis of data based on the collected data. Alright, so these are mostly about that. So I rushed through, sorry about that, but these were the very general, the essence, very general summary of the chapter number 1 and chapter number 2. Alright, thank you very much for your time, and see you in the next video. Oh, not this week. Thank you, and see you in class.